The time is upon us. In a few hours' time, Jack Dorsey, Twitter and Square CEO, is going to have what he calls the talk with Elon Musk at the online conference, the B Word. And looking at Bitcoin prices, we're getting some clarity around price action. On May 19th, we had the mass capitulation event. 1 month later, on June the 23rd, again a massive wick down to 28k. This time round, it's different. For about a week, the bears have been trying their hardest to push the Bitcoin prices down, and unfortunately they couldn't force another wick, as hard as they tried. But the prices did break out of the triangle, spent about a day retesting 30k, and unfortunately for the bears, they couldn't break this. Now, with the event so close, we're seeing this hopium pump. And it remains to be seen whether this pump is going to lead to a full-on relief rally for Bitcoin, maybe all the way back up to 40k again, or whether this pump ends up being short-lived, we end up retesting 30k, getting rejected, and then off to dumpy land. Now in the session we have Jack, we have Elon, and we have Cathie Wood, who's the CEO of ARK Invest. And Cathie's gained somewhat of a cult status in the stock market for ARK Invest's ETFs that focus on disruptive innovation. So she believes there is a $50 trillion opportunity that can be segregated into 5 themes: blockchain, and that's of course where we're interested, right? That's where the cryptocurrency space lies, along with genomic sequencing, AI, robotics, and energy storage. Now personally, I'm a big fan of her ETFs. After the market cycle bull run has finished and we enter a bear market, a lot of people are going to be rotating profits back into other asset classes, including the stock market. And if you're into growth stocks, I think a really good way to invest in that space without having to do a lot of the research yourself is to invest in these ETFs. In particular, Cathie believes that the next FANG, so the Microsoft, the Googles, that's going to lie inside the genomic sequencing space, which does happen to also be one of the harder to research areas because you have to have a bit of specialized medical knowledge to keep up to date with what's going on there. Now both Jack and Cathie are long-time Bitcoin bulls. Elon, he's a little bit more conservative. We remember Elon retracting his pledge to have Tesla take Bitcoin as payment for its vehicles over environmental concerns. Now I believe the worst news for all of this has already been divulged and priced into the markets, and we're starting to see a U-turn in sentiment. Elon has already kind of backtracked from his original backtrack of not taking Bitcoin anymore. He said that once Bitcoin moves to 50% clean energy mining, then Tesla will start to accept Bitcoin once again. So this conference really can't hurt. At worst, nothing really happens, no bullish news, life moves on. At best, we get some bullish developments that ends up restarting Bitcoin's recovery up towards all-time highs. Now the conversations should be pretty cordial. Elon and Jack, they get along quite well. They have quite a history of bromance between each other, which is actually unlike the relationships between other CEOs in big tech. Steve Jobs and Bill Gates never really got along with each other. Tim Cook and Mark Zuckerberg, they don't get along with each other. Now Elon and Jack's bromance goes back quite a while. It started in 2016 when Jack praised Elon for the way that he used Twitter. And this happened again in 2019, to which Elon replied to Jack saying, "Hey, Twitter rocks." In early 2020, Jack called up Elon live on stage in front of thousands of employees, asking him for feedback on how to improve Twitter, how to improve the platform. Then in March, Elon came to Jack's defense when an activist hedge fund amassed a 5% stake in Twitter as a way to try and force Jack out of the CEO role. At the time, Elon said, "Hey, I just wanted to say that I support Jack as CEO. He has a good heart," and then he used the heart emoji. Now with that said, I should clarify that Elon does have quite a bit of bad blood with activist hedge funds in the past who have tried to short Tesla, and as a result acting as impediments to Tesla's growth. And so that's partly why during the GameStop short squeeze battle between the retail investors and hedge funds at the beginning of the year, Elon jumped onto Twitter and extended his support for the retail investors. Now at the same time, I'm going to come out and say I'm a big Tesla believer. A lot of people think Tesla is overvalued, and that's why they have been shorting Tesla throughout its history. But they're looking through the prism of Tesla being just an EV company, but Tesla is far beyond just an EV company. It's like 12 startups rolled into one. It's an AI company with 6 billion miles worth of data. which then feeds into its autonomous driving endgame. Look at its batteries, it's playing in the energy storage sector, which is also massively part of the disruptive innovation space. And then you've got insurance and so on. Tesla has a huge future ahead of it. I can definitely see it becoming a multi-trillion-dollar market cap company, and people who have shorted Tesla throughout its history, in my opinion, some of them have missed the big picture. Now, zooming out and looking at the big picture, I think what Elon has done by dumping Bitcoin, by retracting his promise for Tesla to take Bitcoin as payment, I think ultimately that's going to be a blessing in disguise, because by shedding light onto Bitcoin's environmental concerns, whether you agree with them or not, it's going to kickstart the movement towards cleaner mining. And this is crucial for institutional investors to get in. Because aside from the issue of institutional investors not really wanting to buy Bitcoin unless the prices are pretty good, which they are right now, the way they invest is increasingly focused on ESG, environmental, social, and governance factors. If there is a perception that Bitcoin is not clean, a committee inside the investors' organization will veto the investment. So by shining light onto Bitcoin's possible environmental concerns, it's going to set up ultimately a safer platform from which institutional investors can invest into Bitcoin en masse going into the future. But like they say, in a bear market, people ignore good news. We have lots of bullish fundamental news out there. For example, Argentina recently adopting Bitcoin as legal tender, and this has helped elevate the number of Bitcoin wallets to all-time highs. We have inflation going up, and as we understand, Bitcoin's use case has stabilized around the currency reserve asset. It is an inflation hedge. This is why you buy Bitcoin. We have legendary investor Paul Tudor Jones advising putting 5% of your funds into Bitcoin. We have Senator Loomis in Congress advising buying Bitcoin for retirement. So in 2013, she bought 5 Bitcoin for around $300 each. More institutions getting into Bitcoin, including Fidelity, one of the largest asset managers in the world, along with BlackRock and Vanguard. Yep, the managers behind many of the large ETFs that you buy in the stock market. They're expanding their crypto services, including working on a Bitcoin ETF. Bitcoin adoption is going to be on the rise. Bitcoin is basically digital gold. It's competing with gold, but right now it's not even the 5% of the market cap of gold. So we have a long way to go. We are still at the early stages. If you own Bitcoin, you are at the beginning of a really massive and important journey towards a revolution in money. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Zooming back in, what do you think is going to happen in the short term after Elon and Jack have their so-called conversation? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this content, please feel free to give me a like and a subscribe. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time.